Hello everyone and welcome back to SteemTrail Gaming News. Today is the 30th of April 2018. My name is Kralizec and I will be your host for the evening. Today we got two stories for you guys. First we're going to take a look at a study performed by Dell that challenges the typical gamer stereotype. And secondly we got some more PlayStation 5 rumors. But let's begin by looking at the study. You can easily find the study yourself online if you just go to YouTube and search for State of Gaming Today video infographic. But if you prefer somebody else telling you information, well, you're at the right place. As this study that was performed in 11 countries such as Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Japan, New Zealand, UK and the United States, was all about gamers and their gaming habits and how they view their fellow gamers. And all that information is pretty interesting in my sort of personal, humble opinion. You know, we still got this stereotype of a gamer, you know, the bad guy with lots of zits on his face, probably a loner, antisocial to a degree. But as the study shows, this is just not the truth anymore. There probably was a time in the past where the stereotype was at least partially true, because most stereotypes do come from a true place. Let's be honest about that. And 10, 20 years ago, the vast majority of gamers were probably slightly overweight, awkward people. But ever since gaming has moved on more and more into the mainstream, the perception of a gamer is starting to change. So, for example, there's a part of the fact that, you know, your stereotypical gamer is just bad with girls and he has only male friends. So about half of the respondents, more precisely 47%, show that they have a friend, and that friend that plays video games with them. I do as well. I play video games with my girlfriend. I really enjoy playing Rocket League with her, even though we usually yell at each other when we play that. She yells at me more, to be honest. But also I have a few other friends that like to play games with me. We like to do couch gaming. We really love, all of us, tabletop games, even though I know that's not really video games, but I think it falls in a similar category. Another 29% indicated they have a sister who plays video games. Here I must say, my sister, she really doesn't like video games. At the most, she will play something on her mobile phone, but to get her to game on her PC, no way, Jose. And 21% of gamers have a daughter that plays video games. Here I can't tell much since I don't have a daughter, but I do hope that one day my daughters will be able to appreciate the beauty of video games, at least video games they will enjoy. Okay, what about the fact that gamers are stereotypically loners, you know, introverted people who sit at the basement and only socialize through the screen because otherwise they can't do it? So, this is just simply not true, as the majority of the respondents of the study responded that they enjoy spending time with their family, that was 59% of people, friends, 55%, and they also enjoy doing things like listening, enjoying to music, or even traveling if we go into the more sort of a traditional sort of hobby. And here, yeah, I can tell definitely I really love going to concerts. I really enjoy punk rock and punk. And if I may choose the best for me, that would be ska music, even though that's not as big as it used to be, so it's harder to find concerts with that. But for punk rock, yeah, definitely. Just like 3 weeks ago, I visited a band called Vipsana Fixa, which doesn't tell you anything, but it's a punk rock band, slightly more towards the edge of punk. I've been actually at their concert many times because they used to visit a bar in the town where I grew up, and I went into the bar since I was 14 because that's the norm here in Czech Republic. And traveling, who doesn't enjoy traveling, to be honest? And yeah, sometimes we gamers, let's be honest, we sacrifice things like food, sleep, but skipping out on a friend to game, that's not something gamers will do very often, at least not the current sort of a gamer. Interestingly enough, still there are some gamers that are embarrassed about being called a gamer, and they feel sort of immature because they still play games. But the number is pretty low, at least compared to what it used to be, because it's less than 1 in 10 gamers that feel like that. But on the other hand, more and more gamers are getting more comfortable with feeling that they are a gamer and sort of having that as part of their identity. The same way, if you listen to punk, you're a punker. If you do skateboarding, you're a skateboarder. If you do surfing, you're a surfer. If you play games, you're a gamer. Learn to deal with that and praise that fact, because gaming is one of the most relaxing things to actually do. Let's be honest about that. On top of that, the view of gamers in the employment section of life is actually changing as well. And people who game are more often being viewed as confident and with leadership skills and social skills, compared to the past where if you said you're a gamer, you would probably get put in IT. And these days you have a good chance of getting put into management. And when it comes to the ages of gamers, about a quarter of the respondents were in their 20s, including myself, that was 26. Or in their 30s, which was 22%, 12%, only 12% were teenagers, and when it comes to the gender distribution, it's pretty close. The 52% of gamers were male and 48% of gamers were female. Well, not precisely, it was 47 point something, and the rest identified as something else for some reason, even though you're either a male or a female. And many of the gamers are actually married and living with their spouse. That was 42%. 15% were living with their partner, and half of them actually had a child, or at least a stepchild, with 52% of people. So the conclusion to this is pretty obvious. Your average gamer these days is a person that is roughly in their 30s or in their 20s, very likely has a child, and very likely is married and living with their spouse. And to be honest, I think that's a good image, and we should really try to hold on to it. Okay, and our second piece of news is a bit of hardware news, as there is a report that says that chips by AMD for the PlayStation 5 are ramping up in production. And that suggests that we may see the PlayStation 5 pop up sooner than many people expect. I personally am expecting it to hit the market probably next year, something like half of November, maybe even December, you know, before Christmas. We'll see, but if you don't know what AMD is, it's a CPU and GPU manufacturer, one of the two on the market essentially when it comes to computer parts. And it has been providing the chips for Sony for a pretty long time, as the hardware of the Sony PS4 is completely made from AMD chips. And the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, also known as TSMC, who is one of the largest companies that actually makes chips, because Intel has their own factories, but AMD actually only designs the chips and then outsources the chips to a company who makes them for them, said that they are ramping up their production of chips for many kinds of application, including gaming. And since they also said CPUs and GPUs in the same sentence, that sort of suggests that the gaming portion is literally for consoles. And the chips in question are the next generation of the Zen architecture, which is going to be based on a 7nm lithographic process. I know that probably doesn't tell you much if you aren't an enthusiast into hardware already, but so far they're essentially only been doing like testing production to see how much chips they can get out of a single silicon wafer. But now officially they entered high volume production, which really suggests to me that next year we could see the PlayStation 5 hit the market. And even though I'm not a console gamer or console peasant, that's good news. Not only it means that the Zen architecture is looking pretty well, as they really need the 7nm process to make it good, it also suggests that the next generation of consoles is upon us, and that will lead to a large improvement also for PC games, especially for the AAA titles. Because right now they're essentially limited by the hardware performance of the PS4 and the Xbox One, or at the maximum the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One S. Limiting it, well, quite a lot, to be honest. The performance of a single 1080 Ti can essentially outperform in a raw performance full system, including the GPU, the CPU of a PlayStation 4, and the next generation will be even more ahead. Essentially, if I understand correctly, your average computer with like a Core i3, maybe a low-end Core i5, or a Ryzen 5 CPU with about 16 gigs of RAM and a mainstream GPU like a 1050 Ti from NVIDIA or 580 from AMD is equivalent in performance to a PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One S. I personally have a Core i7 in my computer and a 1070, which is about, I would say, 50 to 70% more powerful compared to what I described previously. And that's not even the highest end of high-end computers you can get. Like, if I really wanted to go high-end of high-end and have like a Core i9 or a Threadripper CPU with like 120 gigs of RAM and a 1080 Ti, ideally an SLI, I would get about additional 100 to 150% of performance. And if the next generation consoles will be able to attain that, that will be awesome. And it will also truly allow 4K to come onto consoles with 60 frames per second, because currently 4K on a console is at the very best at 30 FPS, and usually it's done in a way that it's not really true 4K. So hopefully they come sooner than later, so gaming, especially on the technical side of things, can evolve further. And with that being said, that's going to be it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please consider giving us a thumbs up here on YouTube and subscribing to the channel. If you are watching on Steemit, maybe you want to give us an upvote and follow the blog. Either way, be sure to leave a comment and be sure to tune in tomorrow for more gaming news, as we are your source of daily gaming news every single day. See you guys later with more gaming content.